Good evening, everybody. Tonight I want to talk about hosting your own photos online. You can tell us about online hosting because I put a cloud on the slide. I want to talk about three sort of questions first. Who, why, and how. The first question is who? Who is this talk for? First thing you should know is this talk is advice. And like most advice, it's kind of aimed at people who have the same experiences, the same values, the same characteristics as the person giving the advice. So if you're 31 years old and you're Australian and you study computer science at university and you take photos with your iPhone and you like taking landscapes and you work at a Japanese law firm, then congratulations, because this talk is for you. But I realize that the number of people in that position is probably kind of small, other than me. So I want to do a talk that hopefully is aimed at some other people. First of all, people who want to take photos. Second of all, people who don't use the social features that are on things like Flickr and Facebook and things like that. That's not important to you. And people who aren't afraid of the command line. You can actually do this probably without much of the command line at all, but if you're comfortable, it'll be a bit easier. So that's who this talk is aimed at. If you're not in that group, I'm really sorry. The second thing is why. Why would you want to host your own photos online? I can't really answer that question for you, but I can tell you why I want to host my own photos online. And it's because I used to be a happy user of Flickr. In fact, I was such a happy user of Flickr that I actually paid them money. And I thought this was very clever, because I thought that I'm the customer, I'm not the product. And checkmate, Google. I'm going to win this round. But in May of 2013, Flickr was redesigned after Marissa Mayer, who came from Google, became the CEO of Yahoo, and she said that they wanted to spend more attention, give more attention to Flickr, and redesign it. And so they redesigned it to kind of get rid of all the white space that had sort of been a trademark of Flickr, and to make it about your content. And so now your content takes up basically everything on the site. And whether this is a good design or a bad design, that's arguable. Some people like it, some people don't like it. One thing that I don't think is arguable is this. This is the Yahoo Bar, or I like to call it the fucking Yahoo Bar. This used to be on a lot of Yahoo sites, but it wasn't on Flickr. And with the redesign, they put it on there. And it was there whether you were a paying customer, whether you weren't a paying customer, it didn't matter, they put that on there all the time. And that got me angry because I don't use any of these services, and I don't want to see it, and I don't want other people to see it when they look at my photos. And sure, I can hack my computer, I can put things in user styles and whatever to hide this so I never see it, put an ad blocker on or whatever. But people who come to my Flickr page and look at my photos, they see this all the time, and that kind of made me angry. In case you're wondering, I assume the Flickr Bar is for the millions of people that want to be able to check finance and also shitty flash games in a really kind of easy way. I don't know who else it's for. But of course there are other problems with Flickr. If you want to use your own domain name, you can't do that with Flickr. If you want to change the layout, you can't do that with Flickr. If you want to write long kind of essays talking about the photos that you took, you can't really do that with Flickr either. Now there are other services that can provide some of these things. Maybe some of you use 500 pixels, maybe use SmugMug. There are new services like High and Exposure and Medium, but they all have similar problems. And the similar problem is that you are not in control. The person hosting the photos is in control. They control where the photos are stored, and they control how the photos are displayed. And I didn't really like that. So I decided I wanted to try and take these things into my own hands. But the problem is how. How exactly can you host your photos online? There are sort of two ways, maybe. You could do this, which is not very pleasing. Just put them all in a directory and tell people just to click through. Or you could use WordPress, which is not really designed for photos. And you might look at these solutions and you might go, well, this kind of sucks. Like, I may as well just use the 80% solution. Why, who wants to go to the trouble of creating a way to host your photos? But fortunately, these guys have done that for us. These guys make a product called Koken. And that's what I want to talk to you about today and show it to you so you can see how it works. And if you're interested, you'll be able to run it on your own server and host your own files. Koken is pronounced like spoken. It is a Japanese word. It's Koken. It means a theatrical stage assistant. And that is the sort of idea. They want this to be someone that is sort of behind the scenes, helping show your work. It has no connection to Japan. As far as I'm aware, those three guys are American. But they just thought Japan's cool. So let's use a Japanese word. But it's kind of hard just to sort of talk about Koken in the abstract, so I wanted to show it to you, and the easiest way is just to show you my site. So I am now going to destroy the camera and walk over to the computer. That's right, yeah, break through the fourth wall. And hopefully this works. Okay, so I'm going to go to... I host my photos on photos.inqk.net, and then Koken lives, the admin screen lives here in admin. And so you go here, and you're presented with a login screen. And it's a little bit hard to read, but you type in your email address, and then I'm going to have to type in my password, which I apologize for not having already entered on Paco's computer, but I didn't want him to delete all my photos. Not very trustworthy. So one of the problems, one of the limitations of Koken is that it's a single user CMS. So it doesn't allow you to have multiple users. But if you are doing this for your own photos, probably don't care and don't really see that as a limitation. But I want to point it out in the interest of being open. Oh, and that didn't work. Okay, so this is Koken, and this is the first part of Koken, which is the library. And immediately, this probably looks very different to any other type of CMS you have seen before. And this is what happens when you design a CMS around the idea of being for photos. It means that photos can be first-class citizens in a CMS and not just be something that's shoehorned in like they might otherwise be. I'm going to show you some other things in the library first, but I just want to give you an overview to begin with. So first of all, we start with the library. That's what you see here, this library of my photos. The next thing is text. This is where you can write essays. I don't personally use this feature, but as I said before, there are services like Hi, services like Exposure. Medium is trying to make it easy to kind of have beautiful photos with your essays. If you want to control that, you can easily do that through Koken. The next thing is Site. Site enables you to set different themes. Koken has its own theme, its own sort of templating language called Lens. Koken's based on PHP, so it's the Lens templating language is very similar to PHP and sort of easy to understand. This is what my site looks like at the moment, but if I come down to the bottom, I can look at different themes. And so, for instance, if I check this out, I could look at what my site would look like if I was using this theme. I can go back to the themes and try different ones. So you can use the themes that they give you, or if you want, you can make your own. You can either extend one that they've already made, or you can just start with a sort of bare bones thing. Then there's settings and upload, which is pretty self-explanatory, so I don't want to go into that. I just want to show you the actual site. So this is what my website looks like. I have it set up so that albums is the first thing. I can do that because I'm in control. You can make it so that there's a cover photo if you want. You can make it so it's just a stream of all your photos. You can basically do whatever you make the theme do. and whatever settings you choose. So I've got albums. If I go into a particular album, I've got views like this. If I go into a photo, one of the things that I personally don't like is I hate having to name photos. When you use other services, you have to come up with a name, and invariably my names sound stupid, and I hate having to look at them. And if you don't use a name, you have to use the file name of the photo, so then it's just img blah 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 blah. But because I control this, there is no... this photo has a title, but I don't show it in the theme. I made it so I didn't have to look at the theme. There are other things that can give you metadata about the photos. It's very hard to see on this screen, but there's things there about the focal length and the aperture, the camera I used when I took the photo, where I was when I took the photo. I've got a link for downloading the original if people want to do that. There's something else though that I want to show you. I mean, that's nice, but there are other things that Koken lets you do that are pretty cool. So if you just look here, this is a photo that I took from my trip last year. I went to Nagano with my girlfriend, and this is a photo of Matsumoto Castle. You can't tell that though because the thumbnail has been cropped really badly. And this happens sometimes, right? I don't know if other people have had this, but I've had it before where I've got auto-generating thumbnails, and it does its best, but it just puts it in the wrong spot. One thing that is really nice about Koken is that it actually has a system built entirely around making these look better. So here's the photo. You can see that it's shot in portrait, so the problem is that the castle's at the bottom, and when it's cropping, it's not cropping in the right place. But there's a little control over here, which if I click it, I can change what is called the focal point. And I can move the focal point anywhere in the photo that I want. So for example, I put the focal point here. Now Koken understands that that is the thing that I want to look at. And when it reloads, it will regenerate, understand that I made that change. And the next time the page is loaded and someone tries to look at that thumbnail, it'll generate the correct thumbnail. And now you can see it looks right. Now I've got my nice shot of Matsumoto Castle. So these are the types of things you can do when you have control, and that's the type of control that Koken gives you. I don't want to make it sound like everything about Koken is great. I'm not actually a spokesman for Koken. Koken is not open source software. It is web software that runs on your server, so you have the source code, but it's not open source. You are allowed under the license to make modifications to the source. You're not allowed to distribute those modifications. Given all I just said about how important it is to control things, if that is a reason you didn't want to use Koken, I would fully accept it and understand. But at the end of the day, you do still at least have the source code. You may not be able to distribute it, but you're allowed to make changes to it, and you're allowed to sort of look at it and understand how it works. And for me, that at least puts it ahead of other sort of hosted services. And if the alternative is WordPress or Drupal, then I'd much prefer to use something like this. But yeah, that's my talk. Thank you.
Any questions?
Yeah, with you think about
come back over here. Yes.
Flickr.
Yes.
Why not just use the Flickr API and you let Flickr actually host all your images, but then just show them on your site through the Flickr API?
No, that. David just suggested like another good way of sort of getting around this problem is that Flickr has for a very long time had a very great API that allows you to do a lot with the photos that you put there. There's no good that is a good solution. I don't want to mess around with that. I don't like the idea that Yahoo could turn the API off at any moment, and then I'd kind of be in a bit of a bind. But also, I like to have more control over it. But I think that's totally a legitimate way to do it. And the purpose of the talk tonight, it was sort of phrased as like, you should do it this way. I don't mean that. It's just, I spoke to a lot of people when I installed this, and nobody had ever heard of Koken. And I just wanted to show people what it lets you do. But it's, as I said, not open source. It's got a lot of other things against it. And if you want to do something exactly what David said, I think that's a great solution. I just think it's better to have some control. Whether you do it through the API, whether you do it through Koken, I don't think matters so much.
Do you have anything set up to automatically upload your photos when you take them, or?
I didn't. I can't show it to you because this isn't my computer. My real computer's at home that I use for photos. But one of the other things that's nice about Koken is that it has a Lightroom publish plugin, so it doesn't do automatic. I don't know if you use Lightroom, but I use Lightroom on my Mac for doing my photos. And one of the things that you can do in Lightroom is set up publish destinations, and you need a plugin to do that. Flickr's got a plugin. There are other SmugBug does, but Koken also has a plugin, and so I put my photos into Lightroom, and then when I touch them up and make them look the way I want them to, I then just drag them over to the publish function, and it's sort of automatically, but it's not automatic in, I think, the way you meant it.
Oh.
That's another good reason not to use it.
Actually, I know Koken.
Oh, sweet.
I used it, and I finished the website a few days ago.
Oh, okay.
And why there is no contact form?
On the in the like in terms of what they give you, I don't know. Like I didn't mention there's more to Koken than here. There are other limitations like contact form. There is a plugin architecture that you can write plugins in. You could do that for a contact form. Just like a week ago, they announced that they're about to launch a store that will go together with this. So I didn't mention this. It's free. So how do they make money? The way they make money at the moment is they have another product that these guys sell, and I think that's where the revenue comes from. And they are setting up a store, and in the store you'll be able to buy themes, and I imagine enhancements like maybe a contact form. But yeah, if you don't want to spend the money, you could write a plugin, but you still have to write a plugin.
Yeah.
Maybe that's another.
By the way, it's a great CMS. I really like it.
It's built on top of CodeIgniter, so they didn't actually like build it all from scratch. It's basically sitting on top, and if you don't know, CodeIgniter is a kind of MVC framework like Ruby on Rails, but for PHP.
Did you try services like Everpix or Loop? Or?
I did use Everpix, and then they also shut down. Everpix was actually, I used to have what I thought was my dream setup for hosting photos, because you asked before about automatic sort of photo thingy. I had Everpix as I put all my photos into Everpix automatically. And so no matter what device I had, I could get access to my photos wherever I was. And I didn't have to have like a copy of my library on my phone, and a copy on my iPad, and my laptop. It was just all in Everpix. And then I had this for like the ones that I actually want to like kind of show off. And yeah, then Everpix shut down. So I did use Everpix, but I like this because it's just, I like having my domain on it, which you can do with the API, but I didn't want to write the code. Sorry.
Oh yeah, this is very interesting to me. I have a home server too, and I host photos with PHP software that I'm not very happy with. So this seems really nice. Is a use case where I've got all my pictures in random directories, kind of a tree of directories. I can just point Koken to that directory. It will create thumbnails for me, and then I can selectively choose what goes to the public site.
That's a good question. I don't know if you could upload them it has its own structure for how it organizes photos.
Oh, okay.
So you would need to somehow put it into Koken to do that.
Gotcha. It's not just going to look at a directory on your machine.
No.
Okay.
It's a bit iTunesy like that.
I see.
Has a way that it wants it organized.
Yeah.
The last thing is, with Flickr, it's a very little known API of Flickr. You can request any of the requests in JSON, XML, and lolcat. You can request the API request response to lolcat. Like, oh my god, I has picture.
That's pretty cool. Yeah. This is unrelated, but did you guys see the Arnold Schwarzenegger thing? Yeah, that was
the new language, man.
It's a language where it's all Arnold Schwarzenegger quotes. Basically, just compiles down to C. But
Java.
Sorry, Java.
Java.
But yeah, if you haven't checked it out, just type Arnold Schwarzenegger code or whatever, and it's pretty funny.
Arnold C.
Yeah, Arnold C. Arnold C.
It's better than Shakespeare. It's a language called Shakespeare.
I have seen that too.
Speak thy mind. That's pretty good.
So if there's no more question, you're terminated.
I'm terminated. Okay. Oh.